Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Decaturish Download. I'm your host, Decaturish editor and founder Dan Wisenhunt. Our guest today is my dear friend Isadora Pennington. Isadora is editor of Arts ATL and president of the Avondale Arts Alliance. Isadora, how are you today on this rainy Thursday?
I'm doing great. Happy to be at home and dry. So thanks for having me tonight.
Glad you could be here. My wife made me a wonderful risotto, so thanks. Shout out to her. It was delicious, perfect for tonight. This is the Decatur's Download, where we talk about all things local. We talk with local newsmakers, and we just catch you up on what's happening in our community. If you have a question for our guest, you can ask it in the comments, and we will ask Isadora, and she or I will answer it for you. Isadora, I want to talk real quick, and we got other more important things to talk about. But I've read this story. It's about the High Museum, and they had an executive there, and he's accused of stealing $600,000 or misappropriating, however you want it. There's an audit. There's some financial irregularities going on, and my first reaction is the High Museum has $600,000. Who's what arts organization has that kind of money?
The kinds that have donors that have ties to the big corporations, and the High definitely has that. I mean, the High is Atlanta's answer to a world-class museum. So all of the large corporations like Coca-Cola and similar that call Atlanta home, and if they support the arts, they support the High. They are one of the legacy organizations that's been around for a really long time, and they're really trusted within the community. So this news is really just quite a shock, I think. I think also the fact that he immediately resigned raises questions that we don't have the answers to yet. And I would anticipate that there will be some tight-lipped kind of behavior from the High while they figure out exactly what happened to these funds. But I think there is this conception that that there's not money in the arts, and it is true that Georgia ranks very low for federal funding for the arts, but there is a lot of industry around the arts, and that just goes to show if the High Museum has 600,000 to lose and maybe not even notice it immediately, there is definitely money to be made in the arts. And I'm just excited to see how they're going to recover from this and figure out what happened, what went wrong, and how to prevent it from happening again.
500,000. That's like one fourth of a Van Gogh or something. I mean, that's a lot of money. I don't know how that stacks up. We'll keep an eye on that story. Our
Mhm.
media partners at Atlanta News First are covering that. They got a story up about it right now. Decatur Arts Alliance pushed pause on their festival. They're doing some retooling. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I spoke to Angie Macon. So first off, shout out to Angie Macon. She's the
Hey, Angie.
president of the Decatur Arts Alliance. And when I came on to the Decatur Avondale Arts Alliance, my gosh, all the alliances. When I came on in 2023, Angie was just incredibly open with all of her wisdom, and she continues to be. I mean, basically anyone who's ever met Angie loves Angie.
She's a
So I
treasure.
asked her about it, and I think it's been going for, I think it's like 35 years that they've done this annual festival. It's like their big arts festival. But as I'm sure all of your readers and listeners know, there's tons of work going on in the square right now. And they're also in the Decatur Arts Alliance is kind of in a period of expansion and growth as they build out their creative campus at Legacy Park and continue with their regular programming like the YEA exclamation mark, the Young Artists Showcase. And they have regular showings now they have a gallery space at Legacy Park at the Hyatt Cottage. They have artist studios there. They have their original downtown in Decatur Square visitor center / gallery. And they also do things at the library, activations and exhibitions at the library. So they're kind of using this as an opportunity to step back from I mean, when you do a big festival like that, it is like year round. You're working on it a ton. So I think it's just actually a smart move to take a pause when the settings that are outside of their control are have a lot of transition happening, and reassess and see what innovation might come out of this pause.
Festivals are a lot of work. It takes a lot out of you. So, what kind of coordination do your two groups have, the Arts Alliance in Avondale and the Decatur Arts Alliance? And I will talk about the Avondale Arts Alliance in just a second.
Yeah. So, we are two separate entities. We're both our own nonprofits. We're very firmly in Avondale. They're very firmly in Decatur, but they are our next door neighbors. As I said, they've been nothing but supportive to us, and a real asset. But there's another arts alliance that's worth shouting out, which is the Tucker Arts Alliance. So if you look at the way that these arts alliances form, it's a slow build sometimes to get to the place where you're doing public facing things, getting registered as a nonprofit, getting your board situated, getting the bylaws set up, and getting some of that admin behind the scenes work takes time. So Decatur Arts Alliance has really set the bar, I think, for local arts alliances for what you can do. They do a lot of events. They also do, I think it's the Porch Fest. They plan that out as well. So they do a lot of these big events. They do public art year round, and they do exhibitions. So in Avondale, we are just a little bit behind that in terms of developing out our programming to that same level. And Tucker Arts Alliance is still getting their feet under them. They're a fantastic group of people, really passionate artists, and it's exciting to see all of the new businesses going on in Tucker, like Mama Debbie's, which just opened. Let's see, the full name is Mama Debbie's Art Emporium, which was opened by Clayton and Angelica on February 16. And it's a really cool space. It has maker space, vendor spaces, workshop rentals, and they showcase over 30 local artists. So between that and the Tucker Arts Alliance, they're doing little shows here and there, and the Tucker Town Green kind of coming up. I think we're seeing that spark grow into more in Tucker. Across the board, though, we're all, I think, always talking to each other about ways we can help and collaborate and things that we might be able to. I would like to see us work together as more of an alliance of alliances, if you will. But really, I think we each have our own kind of corner that we operate in. So we are in Avondale and they're in Decatur, but we are right next to each other.
Y'all should start some Facebook drama or something just to build interest, for the
You
algorithm.
can't. You can't build Facebook drama with Angie Macon. I'm here to tell you, you
You
cannot
really
do it.
you really can't. Angie is
She's
a
a treasure.
treasure.
Hmm.
We got some guests chiming in. We got Corey Stuckey says hello. Zoe Seiler, deputy editor Zoe Seiler, say
Hi.
hello. Hello to everybody. Isadora, talk to people. I love this story. Talk to us about the Arts Center you got over there in Avondale and how that came to be.
Yeah, what an interesting story, which I think is a testament to the city of Avondale Estates being really art forward and community focused. So I joined the Arts Alliance in March of 2023. At the time, there had never been like a physical location for the Arts Alliance, although past leadership had founded the art lot, which if a lot of folks who've been around might remember the outdoor art lot that is now at the corner of where the Dale is, right next to us. So we were doing pop-up exhibitions and workshops on borrowed patios and working with community partners. And really that was what we were doing for the majority of that first year in 2023 when I joined. Um, and then there were some changes in the space that we had been using to showcase our work. It was the Banjo Lounge, which had the Bookbird in it. And then Fiber Parts moved in, and those are great community partners. But as a result of additional retail in the space, the walls that we had been showing on were not available anymore. So I was like, it's fine. The universe will provide. Who knows? Maybe we'll focus on public art. And it was that December that Taylor Means who runs Globe Arts, and he's the son of the Means family that run Little Tree Art Studio since the 90s. Taylor was talking to folks at the city and suggested that maybe we might be able to temporarily use the old Finders Keepers location. So I moved to Avondale in 2020. I'm not sure exactly when in that time they closed, but they did. The city bought the building, and Finders Keepers moved their consignment clothing store to now near Claremont and North Decatur Road, which they still are there. And then we have the other Finders Keepers for furniture still here, still in Avondale Estates. But that building sat empty. The city still hopes to turn that spot into a hotel, a luxury hotel with a parking garage in the back to help support all of the development of the downtown strip and to provide additional parking. And there are no hotels in Avondale Estates, so that's like an important part of their plan and vision for the downtown strip. But the working with the company that was going to build it into a hotel, it just kind of faltered and slowed down a little bit. And so they were looking at this building that nobody was taking care of. There was a pipe burst during a freeze, and nobody was there to take care of it. So it was from that initial conversation with Assistant City Manager Shannon Powell, Ellen Powell, who's also with the city, and Taylor Means, that the idea came up that maybe we could use it until they need the space. And I said, "Are you kidding me? I will do that immediately." And jumped up and down a whole bunch. And then we signed the lease in January of 2024 and had our first show 1 day shy of a month from that time. So we had to clean the space out, we had to paint, we had to do there was a ton of cleaning that needed to be done. And then we had our first show in February of 2024, which was our Neighbors and Friends show, where we brought in all of the artists who lived or worked in Avondale or had shown with us while we were in that smaller space. And it's been nonstop since then. We don't have an end date in sight for use of that building. So at the moment, we have all of 2026 planned out, and we are really enjoying the opportunity to bring these huge group exhibitions and little gallery exhibitions and events to Avondale. It seems like it's something that the community really loves, and we're glad to be able to do that.
I love that story so much. The resourcefulness. You hear about found art. It's like y'all found a gallery space that you're just going to use until somebody comes along and decides to turn it whatever they're going to turn it into. And those projects take time. But I think it's really cool that in the interim, there's nothing sadder in a town than an empty building that doesn't have life or community within it. And I think it's really cool that instead of letting a building sit there, you in the city of Avondale Estates found a way to put some life into it until they could realize whatever their grand vision for it is. I love that story. Zoe has a question. She said, I feel like more art has popped up in Avondale over the last few years. How do you think the art scene has grown in Avondale?
Oh, I've seen it myself. Like I said, Little Tree Art Studios really deserves a ton of credit. The Means family opened, I think it was in the 90s is when it started becoming an art studio, where Bob and Margie Means opened it. And that is, at last count, I think it was like 60 to 70 resident artists. And then their son Taylor bought the building back at the back of that lot called Globe. It was a factory. It was a Globe, some kind of fabrication factory, and now that's Globe Arts. So he's got even more art studios going in there, and creative businesses. But the problem with studio spaces is that they are intrinsically not for the public. They are for the artists. And if you know of any working artists, you'll know that they tend to be kind of protective over their studio space. The whole point of having a studio space is to leave projects half done. Stuff is everywhere. It's an active working space. So what happened was, for many, many years, it just kind of went under the radar. Now, there were a ton of great activations that happened from past leadership of the Arts Alliance. It's been around since 2002, so it's not a new organization. And they were responsible for the art lot, but also there was coffee. There was a coffee activation event. There was painting in gardens. There was a big arts festival once a year, Autumn Fest. They also did like some studio tours and stuff. So not to discount, that is a ton. But I think that since we opened a physical location that enticed a whole kind of portion, if you were to have a map that showed you all of the galleries in Atlanta, there's a kind of gap between Dunwoody, Brookhaven, and down to like East Atlanta. So you start to see some little smaller galleries pop up. But I think that this community has so much to offer. And I think that it would be, I think that having an exhibition space that is it's a genuine gallery. It's a nice gallery. It's a huge space. And then also having me come in with my connections to greater Metro Atlanta artists, I think that helped us to get onto the map. So we have a decent amount of artists who come participate in a show with us and had not explored Avondale Estates, which I think is a travesty because I love Avondale. There's so many wonderful things to be said about it, but I do think that the visibility and the permanence of having the physical space where people were hearing about it. Oh, my friend who's an artist, Atlanta is a very small town for artists. So even if they weren't individually in the show, they knew someone who was, and all of a sudden they had a reason to go to Avondale. I think that it kind of has added up Also the Avondale Estates Wine and Art Walk, which we coordinate art for with the city. We work together with the city and the DDA to do this big annual event. And Wigwag, which is, I think, in its fourth year now, which is a big art and music festival that has grown, is huge. That's Robert Lee of Methane Studios puts that on. And it's a big deal. It's gotten a lot of attention. That combined with, there's a few awesome local arts businesses like Fiber Parts, Village Music, Mr. John's Music. There's the photo and video studio, Little Tree and Globe, and Garage Door Studios, of course. And all of that, I think, combined has given people a reason. Oh, and then the Avon Theater. Avon Theater, that's a big part of this equation as well. The fact that the real estate company decided to keep it and run it as more of a community arts space is a big deal. And all of those little things combined, I think, have led to people come out for one thing, they learn about something else, and then all of a sudden they're coming out and they're kind of becoming a part of a really sweet artistic community.
I tell people all the time, people sleep on Avondale and their art scene, but they have got a lot of cool stuff. Puddle's Pity Party in King Size is based out there. And I remember one time, and I don't know how I got this invitation. I don't know why I was deemed cool enough, but they had a private show with Puddles the Clown and Puddle's Pity Party. And it was in Little Tree. I think it was in a studio out there. And it was one of the coolest things I've ever been to. You know, it was just us and a couple of select invited. I think they did a live recording. But Avondale's really cool like that. You can have
Yes.
really unique, weird, fun experiences there that you can't have anywhere else. And it's got an energy to it. And that is the one thing I always worry about when towns start to get gentrified and developed is it going to take some of that away? Is it going to price some of those artists out? And I hope not. I hope Avondale retains some of its charm and weirdness because that's what being weird and charming is what makes Avondale State special. That's why we love it. I want to pause really quick and tell you about a new website called GeorgiaPress.com. Georgia politics moves fast, and now there's a new place to keep up. Appen Media Group announces the launch of GeorgiaPress.com, a new statewide news website focused on Georgia politics, power, and policy, serving every corner of the Peach State. From the Gold Dome to your hometown, GeorgiaPress.com delivers in depth reporting, accountability, journalism, and stories shaping Georgia's future. And it's now the official home of the Georgia Politics Podcast, Georgia's #1 political commentary podcast since 2019. Smart analysis, trusted voices, real journalism. Visit georgiapress.com today, and I will give a shout out to my deputy editor, Zoe Seiler. GeorgiaPress.com is she is heading up that project. So go check it out. We're always proud of Zoe and the work that she does, and the readership of Georgia Press, I know, is enjoying what she's doing. And it's kind of an important year for politics. I don't know if we're not here to talk about politics, but we got some elections happening that you might want to pay attention to. I'm just saying, I'm not a politicologist or whatever, but you should pay attention to what's going on. What's on our list? Oh, Shakespeare.
Mhm.
Shakespeare and the town. So, all right, I don't know if the Shakespeare and the Town Green organizers are watching this. I assume everybody watches this, but so y'all, I am a man of diverse interests, and I like college. But Shakespeare's audiences were too, though, right? So I like college football and other kind of sports nerd stuff. And when they did the first Shakespeare, I think it was in the middle of football season or it
Mhm.
was something. And I was like, oh, can you come back? But they're going to do it in the spring, right? They're going to
Yes,
come
they
back.
are. So
Yay!
I have the dates for that. So this is
Yes.
a project brought to life by Commissioner Ted Terry, who has been, man, the more I get to know this man, he's just such a supporter of the arts. And listen, that's the way to my heart. You support the arts, and all of a
You know
sudden
what we say
we're
about Ted
besties.
Terry at Decaturish?
What's
A
that?
day without Ted Terry is like a day without sunshine.
Oh, that's true. Ted Terry, we love you.
Ted,
um,
Ted's a good guy.
he is.
Ted is on a group text with our team, and he texts a lot, a lot. It's okay, we like it. But I implemented a rule with Ted that if he's going to text our team, he has to text us one cat picture
Okay.
a day, and he's got a cat named Padme, and it's adorable. I'm not going to lie, and I'm like, we got to have Padme pictures, or this text thread is done.
It's cat
So
tax. It's
that's
cat
right.
tax.
You have to cat tax. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Well, no, I mean, I think it was so cool. Shakespeare, I think, gets a rap for being elitist or something where you might not be able to understand it, or it's for like a specific kind of crowd. And that is just, I think, not actually representative in events like this. So this is a kid-friendly, more public, free. They're free to attend. So I have the dates here. We have March 21, Much Ado About Nothing. There'll be 3 performances on each one of these days. On April 18 will be Midsummer Night's Dream. And on May 23rd, it will be Romeo and Juliet. But I think it's just really cool to be outside. This is a space that is made for children. This is in the amphitheater at Town Green. And if you've been following along with the development of Avondale Estates, they've been very children forward. Like they've been focused on how to make spaces for families and for children, and kind of basing the design around that. I think this is a great application of that towards the arts, where we have an outdoor stage. But if you have ever taken a kid to a performance where they need to sit still in a seat and be quiet, that's hard for kids.
Hmm.
I think the way that they do this more in the round, they're out in public, they're at a playground. I mean, there's a playground right next to it. There's grass that they can roll around in. I think it's a really cool offering and a way of taking something that is conceived as being classical literature that's for specific echelon of people and making it more something that everyone can enjoy. I'm so glad that you enjoyed it, and I'm excited to see that it's coming back again this year.
I think it's funny that people think Shakespeare is really highbrow, because if you look into the history of it, I mean, he appealed to a lot of lowbrow people, and there were parts of the show that Shakespeare is like The Simpsons. It sort of appealed to highbrow and lowbrow interests because he had to entertain everybody at the same time. So there was
Mhm.
stuff for the people in the plebes, and then there was stuff for people in the box seats. So I always think it's interesting that people assume it's hoity-toity, but I love Shakespeare. I'm a theater nerd at heart, and I'm really really grateful that there'll be something I could take my kid to this year. So congrats to the Shakespeareans, the people who are
Mhm.
doing that stuff. You're doing the Lord's
Mhm.
work. Please keep bringing stuff like that to our public spaces. I love it. Want to see more of it. What was our Oh, we wanted to talk about the new murals. I have a question.
Go
So
for it.
there is uh, a a development. I guess it's got a Publix near it. It's in Decatur, and it's got these people, and they look like cauliflower people.
Mhm.
They're like
Mhm.
white. It's like white cauliflower. I call them
I
I
know
don't
what
know
you're
what else.
talking about.
Yeah, what is that? Do you know what that means? Because I drive by it every day, and I'm like, I'm so confused
Well, it's
by
a
this.
sculpture. It's a
Okay,
sculpture, first of all.
we
Um,
confirm that.
so that is, you're talking about the sculptures that are on the property of
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
Sam's Crossing Publix. That is a Decatur Arts Alliance initiative, to
Oh.
put sculptures there. And I can't speak too much to it because I wasn't involved with the instating it, but I do think that there's an element of lightheartedness that the Decatur Arts Alliance seems to want to bring to sculptures, maybe specifically there, but I think you could apply that logic to the other permanent sculptures that they have. Just this kind of lightheartedness and being a little funny. I do also think that there's a theme of family or community by having multiple figures there. But that's the thing about public art. And so when we talk about murals and public art is it's intended to make you have questions. And everyone interprets art differently. The way that I like to think of it is viewing a piece of art, it's two one-sided conversations. So it's the artist putting their thoughts out there in a format that is not word for word. It is just, this is an expression of their inner idea and vision. But then also the person viewing it is having their own separate, sometimes overlapping, but sometimes completely separate interaction with that art because the artist isn't there to tell you, here's what this is, here's what this means. There are, of course, some exceptions to that, but no one will ever make a piece of public art that everyone will love. That is just the way it goes. When you put a piece of work in the public and you put it on a street where you're not opting into seeing it, you're just passing it, People are going to have opinions, and that's actually a good sign. If we start to become complacent and not care about the things that we see around us, if we stop having opinions about art, I think that's a bad sign for our culture and our society. Having discretion, having a personal opinion about art, that actually means it's doing its job, that you're interacting with it, engaging with it.
Art is what keeps us all from running around and poking each other with pointy sticks.
I mean, we do that anyway, but
We
it
do
can
that
help.
anyway, but it decreases it substantially. Some people love to hate on art. Like there was that sculpture. I guess it's still there in Oakhurst. They call it the steel Cheeto, and it looks like it's exploding French fry. It's a industrial looking sculpture. They call it the steel Cheeto or the exploding French fry. And people, kids climb on it during festivals. They love to make fun of it. But then one day they took it away to clean it, and suddenly all the people who were hating on this thing were like, "Where's the steel Cheeto
Mhm.
going? What are they doing?" So it became, in a funny way, it became a part of the community. It became something familiar that people look to, and I love that. I love that about art. Even if you disagree with it or hate it, it can still be. There are people in my community that I disagree
Mhm.
with and don't get
Mhm.
along with sometimes, but I'm still glad they're here. You know.
I mean, I think that reminds me of this is going to be such a niche reference that I think some people will get. The New York City, the shrine to the dead rat. There was a rat that died, and they like, and he was like in the cement. There was an impression of it, and it has become like an altar, where just people, all kinds of people who don't know each other, will go and tend to it. So there is this art can do a bunch of different things. It can make you feel a lot of different things. Sometimes it's pretty straightforward. This is meant to make me feel hope. I feel hope. Other times it's more confusing or ambiguous and maybe is intended to make you think more deeply. But there's also this thing that can happen where a piece of art can become like a cultural phenomenon from the way that the public engages with it, which is that one-sided conversation that I was just mentioning, where once it's out there, it's out of the artist's control how it's going to be interpreted. And so sometimes it will be taken seriously and sometimes it might not, but that doesn't diminish the power of the art.
Isadora, we got about 4 minutes left, and I do want to be respectful of your time. What's going on with the AAA? They're launching a call for public art. How can we get involved with that?
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about the Avondale Arts Alliance. Anyone who's ever met me knows that I love the
Oh,
Avondale
that's
Arts
the
Alliance.
Avondale Arts. I thought you meant like the actual AAA. Like,
No, Triple A, that's a shortening for the
whoa,
Avondale Arts Alliance. So I was like,
damn,
of course I
I'm
want to talk about
embarrassed.
that, Dan.
I'm so
That's
sorry. Why is the AAA asking? I really thought you were talking about the Auto Club. I didn't realize you. I'm
I
so
do
sorry.
like to joke sometimes when I'm having a hard time that AAA stands for but but no, we had a really successful end of last year with fundraising, and it put us in a different position to be looking at what we're doing this year. We're going to continue with our programming. Our next exhibition opens up on Saturday, March 14th, and it will run through April 21st, I believe. That is the School Showcases, which is a return of one of our most mission-driven exhibitions that we do in a year. We invite 4 local schools to come and show at no cost to them. The students don't sell their work, but we have everything from kindergarten through high schoolers, from Bob Mathis Elementary, Avondale Elementary School, the Museum School, and Academia of the Oaks, which is a local high school. So that's very exciting that we're getting into that. But the other thing that was a piece of the pie of what Avondale Arts Alliance can do that we had not tackled since I joined is public art. And that is where I was applying for grants within the past few years. So many grant applications. I've never received a single grant, but that's okay. I still love you, grants. But what I needed was funding to do some public art, because one thing that really bugs me about Avondale Estates, which there's not a ton, but I'm used to living in places where you walk down the street and you see art everywhere. I mean, if you think of Savannah, like I didn't live in Savannah, but I love the way that even the street signs are covered in art. Like everything is artistic and you feel it when you're walking down the street. In Avondale Estates, there's some really amazing businesses, but the art is mostly inside. And so I would like to see a more vibrant community where you're walking down the street and you see that it has its own artistic voice already. And I just want to see that represented. So I approached none other than our boy, Ted Terry, last year,
like you do.
And I said, I want to do some of this stuff and I just need some funding for it. So he has worked with us and the city of Avondale States. We are launching a call for proposals for utility box painting, and we're launching it in like 2 days. So March 1st, we're going to send out an email. Anyone who wants to learn more about it, please go to the Avondale Arts Alliance website and there's a button for newsletter. If you join the newsletter, you'll be the first to see it. We're going to have a budget of $1,000 per artist for 5 utility boxes. With all of the streetscapes that have been finished and how beautiful the streets and the roads and the sidewalks are, it just makes sense. This is a good time for us to not only pay artists, but also beautify these kind of unsightly utility boxes. So that will be launching on Sunday. So join the newsletter before Sunday if you want to be the first to hear about it. We have a committee that's going to be making selections, and then we will be having that painting happening later this spring, and I'm very excited about it.
Grant funders, if you're out there listening, give this woman a grant. She is doing the Lord's work. She is a magician. She is working wonders over there in Avondale State. Isadora, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us. This is the Decaturish download. We air right here at 7 p.m. every Thursday on Facebook and YouTube and all the places, and we'll be back next Thursday as well. We hope you all stay dry. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you again next Thursday. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Isadora.